Coming up, our first show of the new season. We'll have soccer highlights, an interview with Keene State's new athletic director, and a recap of all the week's Owl team scores. I'm Peter Dubois, and this is Inside Owl Athletics. On Tuesday, both the women's and men's soccer teams faced off against Colby Sawyer and Riviere College at the Owl Athletic Complex. Inside Owl Athletics' Tyler DeRosa has more on the games.
Both the men's and women's soccer teams were in action on Tuesday. They both took a little while, but they were able to get the jobs done. Colby Sawyer was able to get on the board first with this early goal by Hannah Fields. The Owls were close to getting on the board early in the second half with this laser by Rachel Braun that was denied by Una Bond. Later in the second half, Hannah Fields was able to get the job done again to bring the lead to 2-0 Colby Sawyer. The Owls were able to get back in it just a few minutes later with this goal by Jordan Abasino. Less than a minute later, Keene was able to tie up the game with this hooking kick from Victoria Reynolds. Then, with 13:40 remaining in the game, Taylor Basalian was able to score the go-ahead goal to put the Owls up 3-2. After this win, Keene moves to 1-1 on the season. Next up, the men's soccer team faced off against Riviere. The Owls controlled the ball for most of the first half and had multiple shots on goal, including this goal that was called back for offsides. The second half was much of the same for the Owls, but they were finally able to get on the board with Isaiah Lovering's first goal of the night. Later in the second half, Lovering was able to find the back of the net again off this penalty kick. Both teams will be looking to continue their winning ways this weekend. For Inside Owl Athletics, I'm Tyler DeRosa.
The Owls were in Westfield, Massachusetts Wednesday night, playing their namesake from Westfield State in a non-conference match. Keene State pulling away in the first set, already up by 8 when Bailey Wilson sets up Megan Palmer for the kill for a 12-3 lead. Second set now, Keene State down by as many as 5 in the set, but on the comeback trail as Palmer serves up the perfect ace, landing between 3 Westfield State players for a 21-18 KSC lead. Keene State up 24-16 now and looking to finish out the match. Kate West with the serve at match point. Westfield hits it into the net and KSC completes the 3-0 sweep. Keene State is next in action tonight at Riviere University as part of the Granite State Challenge. Keene State volleyball has a solid reputation for recruiting outside the New England region. Players have come from as far away as the Midwest and even California. But this week, I talked to a freshman who tops them all. Her journey to Keene started in South America. Emily Ann Ashford is a freshman on the Keene State volleyball team. But she's not your typical first-year student. She just came back to the United States after spending nearly 4 years living in Chile, where she found her love for volleyball.
I moved when I was 14 for my dad's job. He's a copper miner, and so there's a huge copper industry in Chile. We moved there. And I've been there since October of 2014. And I just moved back May of this year, 2018.
Before making the move to Chile, Emily Ann grew up with her family in small-town New Mexico. She had never been to New England, but one email from head coach Bob Weiner convinced her that this was the next place she would call home.
The volleyball coach, he sent me a really interesting recruiting email. Long story short, it was like, I've got this all figured out. Your dad went to Colorado School of Mines. He's working in a copper mining industry. That's why you live in Coloma, Chile. You've been playing volleyball there. You're probably bilingual. That reminds me of this other player that we had on the team. It was just a lot more interesting than the other recruiting emails that were like, I'm interested in you. Send me an email.
It was clear that Emily Ann felt welcomed before even stepping foot onto campus. And that's exactly what Coach Weiner intended.
That's part of the goal of this program. We have a team culture that is welcoming, and half of my kids are from out of region, and we'd like it to be at least that or more. I mean, this year we have 2 kids from New Hampshire on the roster.
Although she spent most of her life in America, Emily Ann says she has more culture shock coming back to the U.S. than she did moving away when she was just 14.
When I moved to Chile, I didn't want to go. Like, my dad was like, he didn't tell me. I heard it. I was walking down the hallway and I hear from my dad, we're moving to Chile. And I'm like, we are not moving to Chile. I don't know what you think you're doing. This is not happening. Like, you guys can go, I'm staying here. And I called all of my friends, every single one, to see if I could live with them. And then we visited and I fell in love with Chile.
I think her experience living in different cultures and being thrown somewhere where she really didn't know the language reflects on her as a human being and how she approaches everything. But I think that her level of maturity and sophistication is different than the regular sort of freshman we get here.
Even in her first weeks as an Owl, Emily Ann has shown she's an impressive addition to the team.
Honestly, she's a very strong hitter, and for coming from Chile, her volleyball knowledge is like super high. Not saying that it'd be different, but it's a different dynamic there where you're kind of playing with your friends, she said, and it's like you're not in a gym, you're on like a concrete court from what I've heard. But she's got a great attitude, an aggressive swing, which we definitely could use, great personality for sure, and she's always upbeat, which is nice to have.
3 Owls have received Player of the Week honors from the Little East Conference. Volleyball libero Riley Bunker has been named Defensive Player of the Week. The senior had double digits in all 4 games of the season opening Red Dragon Classic at Cortland State. Field hockey teammates Rachel Loseby and Allie McCall are also taking home conference honors. Loseby received Goalkeeper of the Week for 5 saves against the University of New England. This is her 2nd time receiving this award in her career. McCall was named Defensive Player of the Week as part of the backline that limited the Nor'easters to just 6 shots on goal for the entire game. This is McCall's first ever conference award. Congratulations to these LEC Players of the Week. Keene State College Athletics is under new leadership. Dr. Denisha Hendricks took over as Interim Director of Athletics and Recreation last month. She steps in for Dr. Christine Kelly, who left during the summer to take a position with the Dartmouth College Athletics. Inside Owl Athletics correspondent Kayla Prisco is in the studio this week to help us get to know Dr. Hendricks.
So thank you so much for being here, Dr. Hendricks. It's a great pleasure to have you. So a question for you. While you were working at Chicago State University, you were in charge of the Division I men's basketball team. And how does that differ from Keene State's Division III teams here?
Well, I tell you, it was Division I program. We had 15 sports at Chicago State. You have 18 sports here, so you have more, which is fairly typical. Many Division III institutions have a lot more sports than your Division II or Division I institutions, except some of your very large schools like the Ohio States of the world and things like that. But I tell you, the biggest difference really is probably more operational. In terms of scholarships, Division III, you do not give athletic scholarships. Well, you do in Division II and Division I. So that's probably one of the biggest differences. The other thing is the footprint of the conference. For instance, the LEC, our conference, we drive. We van, bus, drive. We get there. But the footprint of the conference, in many Division I conferences, you're on the plane. You have to fly.
Oh, wow.
Most places.
Is there a difference in competition? Are the kids just as competitive as they are Division I?
Absolutely, absolutely. I tell people all the time, ball players want to play. Student athletes are student athletes. And if you're a student athlete and you have an opportunity to play at the collegiate level, whether it's Division I, Division II, Division III, people will be just absolutely amazed at the competitiveness in all 3 divisions within the NCAA. Basketball is basketball. There's no different dimensions. The ball is still the same. Softball is softball. The field is the same. There are no differences. There's only one rule book for a sport.
While you're here at Keene State and you're the interim athletic director, what is one goal that you have while you're here, and is there something that you would like to change?
Well, I'll tell you, there are a couple of things that we really want to work on this semester. And one, we want to be sure that we increase our compliance, NCAA compliance education within the department and then within the Keene community, and that's on campus and off, because we have a lot of donors and we have boosters, and we want to make sure that we're not breaking any rules. But it's on us within the athletic department to let other folks know the things that we already know. But we also have to make sure that we continue to educate ourselves. So that's one thing that we're working on, and we've already started with some things internally within the athletic department, and then wanting our parents, making sure that our parents have access, and they know, because unknowingly they could do something and not even really realize they're jeopardizing their students' eligibility, and so we don't want that to happen, but we have to educate. So that's one thing. The next thing that we want to make sure we look at, we're getting ready to enter into the institutional self-study. And that's what it is. It's institutional. It's not just the athletic department. And that's a requirement of the NCAA every 5 years within Division II and Division III. And there's something similar in Division I as well. But you must go through that. And truly it takes a look at your entire operation as it relates to athletics. But it looks at from the president all the way down to the grounds. I mean, it is the full gamut. So it's deep and wide
right.
in terms of what you have to talk about. So it's a very comprehensive document, but you have to answer those questions, and you also have to show that you're actually, if you say you're doing it, you've got to prove it.
Right.
And if you're not doing it, then what's your plan to start?
My last question for you today is, I know that you used to work and live in the South and in the Midwest, and I also know that you used to live in the Northeast when you were younger, and I just wanted to know if there was a bigger difference, you know, South and Midwest and then the Northeast, you know, athletics-wise or personally, if there's a huge difference for you.
Well, people would probably say weather, but the weather that we've had,
I'd say it's crazy everywhere.
It's hotter up here than it is at home. I'll tell you that. So weather right now is not the difference, but in the wintertime that would be a difference. Right. But you know that's probably one of the things you just have to get used to is the weather, and it is going to be a little colder. You're going to have more snow. Midwest, you get more ice. You know, a lot of times, depending on where you are in Kentucky, we got ice more than snow. Chicago got a lot of snow, you know, but that's just kind of how, you know, how it is. I would say, you know, there are food differences, and that's probably one of the biggest things that those places that you're used to going to and getting certain things that you like, you don't have that, you know, particularly those places and those franchises in different parts of the country. I tell people I am truly an Alabama girl, so I brought my own grits to New Hampshire. So I love it. Because the grits that I could buy here in the store are not the grits that I can buy in the store at home. So I brought them with me. You know, I brought my own flour and my own meal because I can't, the brands that I want, I can't get them here. So I brought that with me to give me just a little feel of home. A little feel of home, but I'm a true Southern girl, so I have to have grits. So I make sure that I have the ones that I like, because otherwise I would just be disappointed.
Yeah. We don't want that.
We don't want
you to be happy here.
Absolutely, and I am, and it's been truly wonderful, and I'm excited to get to know, further get to know our coaching staff and our students and the faculty and the administrators here in Keene and our alumni, and you know, just friends of the institution. And so we're really excited. We want folks to know that we're here and we're ready to be good partners as we move the institution and the greater Keene community forward.
Well, I'm so glad to hear it. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed talking with you today.
Thank you.
So
Thank
much.
you. I appreciate it.
Dr. Hendricks will lead Owl Athletics while the college forms a search committee to look for a permanent athletic director.
There's plenty of competition going on this weekend for Owl Athletics. The weekend begins tonight for the Keene State College volleyball team. The Owls will be in action at the Granite State Challenge hosted by Rivier University. They're playing Rochester Institute of Technology at 6, followed by a match with Rivier at 8. On Saturday, the Granite State Challenge comes to Keene. The Owls host Elmira College at noon and then New England College at Flore. The cross-country team will be at Smith College for the Smith College Invitational. The racing begins at 11. Field hockey is at home Saturday with a noon game against Springfield College. Men's soccer kicks off at 1, hosting Wheaton College at the Owl Athletic Complex. Women's soccer rounds out the weekend with a road game at Tufts. Kickoff is at 1 o'clock Sunday. Remember, you can watch all Keene State contests through the Owl Athletics website. Just go to KeeneOwls.com, click on the Game Day tab, and then select Live Broadcasts. Again, that's KeeneOwls.com, Game Day, and then Live Broadcasts. That's it for this week's program. I'm Peter Dubois, and for everyone here at Inside Owl Athletics, thanks for watching. See you next week.